What's going on, everyone? Thank you for joining us around the table. And this is exciting. I've never had a return guest before. So that means I didn't say too many wrong things to shoo him away. But the people have spoken and they wanted to bring the music extraordinaire, man of God, barbecue pitmaster, Aaron Roth, back into the table. So thank you for being here, Aaron.
Welcome. I feel like my reputation precedes me.
I'm telling you, you got to bring me to your shows. I will be your hype man. It's like,
Let's go. Let's go. Only got a few more on the calendar. We're the week before Thanksgiving. So I'm actually I'm excited to finish out the year. It's been a lot of music. And that's never bad, but I don't think I anticipated like playing out as much as we have, especially like the last 7 months. And then you add the worship schedule onto that. It's a lot. It's a big, I got to find some balance. Like we were texting earlier about balance, and I got to figure that out for next year. It's like, I want to play, but then there's times where I'm like, I need to manage my schedule better. But yeah, we're close, and I'm going to take a nice little 6-week hiatus, I think, from playing, not worship, but outside, regular shows. I'm going to take a nice little siesta, and we're going to, me and the boys in the band are going to just take a little break, and then we'll probably punch back in and not even probably, we're already booking in February. So yes, there's that. So there you go.
If you guys don't play on Valentine's Day, the world is shot and there's no romance. So we got No, but it's impressive. I'm glad you talked about the balance thing, because I mean, I'm blessed and lucky enough to be friends with you, and I know your schedule, and it's pretty amazing to see you go to shows day after day on the weekends, it seems like, and yet you still carve out time for worship, and that's a testimony of who you are. I mean, that's I believe that's, I'm not speaking on your half, that's a priority, it seems like, is the worship ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, I think my wife just left, but she's pretty big on that. She's like, if you got time to be out until 11 or 12, gigging, then you got time to get up at 5 a.m. on Sunday or 5:30 a.m. and be ready to get down the hill by 7. And so there's definitely, I think last Sunday I was really I had maxed myself out. I played a Friday show. I played a Saturday show. The Saturday one didn't go late, but it was still, that's 2 loadouts, 2 load-ins, 2 teardowns, 4 hours. It's just a lot. And then, Sunday comes, and worship is just a whole nother level of emotion and energy. I feel like that goes into that. So, Sunday I went to lunch. I came home, and I think I slept for like, I don't know, a long time.
Yeah.
I was done, but no, it is my wife Yvette, God bless her, like she's dead accurate about that, and I'm thankful that she holds me accountable, because I think last week I was kind of like, no, I'm sure my pastor might see this and be like, what? You're gonna play? But she's pretty adamant about me keeping that commitment and making sure, like, if I've got time for one, then you best make time to get up and serve the church. And I'm like, okay, let's go.
That's it. It's marching orders.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had this talk on the books for a while, having you back on the show, and
lots happened since then.
Yeah, I kid you not. This is why if I've done, I've done these interviews before, and this one is really on my heart. I mean, this is, if I want people to listen to this, because we're going to do real talk. Normally I'm a planner, and I will send kind of an idea of the questions of what I want to kind of go over so that everyone can prepare. This is real, because we're going to talk about some things that have happened in Aaron's life that not only put like this interview on hold, but for a lot of people, it could throw their lives upside down. And so if you are someone who's deciding to tune in or just listen before you shut it off, the things we're going to talk about today is a loss of life, the uncertainty of the unknown of life, family issues, our faith, pain, struggle, where we turn to. Like, we're going to talk about this, and it's not going to be as long as our last episodes. This is going to be compact. It's going to be straight to the point, but this is our heart issue. We're not blowing smoke up to anybody. Like, this is what's happening. So I want to just dive right into it and just unpeel the layers. And I thank you, Aaron, for being so open to it. But from the last time we got a chance to speak, actually on our episode, you had a chance to talk about a gentleman who's impacted your life greatly and helped bring you into this, actually probably putting your worship first, someone that brought this into you. And his life was tragically cut short. And I want to know, because he was a good friend of yours. He was a man of God. He served the kingdom. Like, how did your faith respond? How was it tested? How did you feel the kind of those moments after losing someone so close to you? If just brutally honest.
Yeah. Well, just kind of the backstory is I was dealing with a lot already that week when Alan passed away. Yeah, it was a very rapid, literally 24 hours, like less than 24 hours. It was like a very rapid 12 hours, maybe 15 hours. But so Yvette, my wife, I had to drop her off that Sunday at the ER. She had got COVID. It was Delta. It hit her very hard, very rapidly. And I just had to drop her off. Like, I didn't know if she was gonna, at that point, I didn't know. I mean, it was bad. I knew it was bad. She was at like 82 or 81% oxygen when we dropped her off. So it was bad. Like, they were like, Aaron, the nurse was like, this is asphyxia. Like, people normally aren't even coherent at 81%. And so I had to drop her off. And that was a train wreck for me, just emotionally, when you have to drop your wife off and not know, if she's going to make it or not. And the following morning is when I got the news that Alan had passed away. And I think in that moment, initially, I remember thinking to myself, like, God, like, what are you doing? Like, what, like, I remember last time I talked about, sometimes I think, oh, I'm not designed for this. I'm not designed to be in deep waters. I think that was the exact quote that I used. And now I'm like, we're in the abyss. I just felt like my world is just wrecked right now. My wife is in the ICU. I don't know if she's going to make it. My mind is running 1,000 different directions with that. And then to hear about Alan, I was like, instantly was like, God, what are you doing? Because to be fair, I don't think I'd really been tested like this. I've been tested, but not like this. I mean, some things that we talk all the time. So definitely it's not, I won't say like I have this easy, lavish, no challenge, no valleys, no crisis, life by any means. But this initially felt like, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. Mm-hmm. Like, I just, I don't know if I'm going to, it was too much. It was so heavy. It was so heavy initially. And I almost had to put the Alan thing on a shelf. Like, I grieved, I cried, I was angry. I went through several different emotions that day about Alan. And then I had to shelf it because I had a 14-year-old stepdaughter who is asking tough questions. Is my mom coming home? If my mom doesn't come home, am I going to have to go live with my dad? and I'm making promises to her that frankly, I don't even know if I'm going to deliver on. Like I'm making blind promises in faith. Like, yep, God's going to bring her home. I mean, I knew in my heart of hearts, like with the Yvette situation, I kind of kept just saying, there's no way like God brought us this far to let this happen. I did believe that. There was no other option. And I think it's easy to say that now that I'm on the other side of it. It wasn't easy. It was not easy to say that going through it. And you and I chatted that week. I chatted with, I was going to say, the biggest thing that got me through that entire week was just community. My friendships, whether it was you or Brian, Anthony and Brittany from Roar, Rick and Gina. They never let me have a dinner that week alone. They always made me, I get emotional thinking about it because it was just a lot. It was just a ton packed into this really tight time space. But, those are some key, Dave Ray and his wife. Like there was just some key people that I am very thankful for. And I think I also realized maybe in that short time period, there's a lot of times I think we go through life and, there's some times where I'm like, maybe no one really cares or no one really, as odd as this will sound coming from me, like maybe I'm not well liked or I'm not well received or I'm not important. Maybe not liked or not well received because I don't really, to be fair, I don't really care about that. And I've ruffled many of feathers not caring about that, and that's okay. But I think there have been times where I've walked through life and I'm like, does anybody really care? And like people, I couldn't even keep up with text messages or phone calls or emails. Like I was really selective. Like I would respond very quickly to people, but I was very selective on who I was talking to and leaning on just because I need it. I couldn't worry about everybody else. I would update people and give Facebook updates and, I would send out some group texts at night, but I was really just trying to take care of me and, trying to take care of Angela and, I think Angela surprised me too. Like she's 14, but she's super resilient, like mind-blowingly like resilient. Like I was shocked how resilient she was emotionally and just spiritually. I think funny enough, maybe not funny enough because the Bible talks about childlike faith all the time. And she was so steadfast in her faith, and I was like, thank God for that. Yeah. Thank God that, we poured that into her. I'm thankful that other people, youth leaders that she's had in the past and youth leaders that she has now, and just people that have poured into her walk, because I think without that, it just would have been a train wreck, but that's kind of what happened. And that's my initial thought is I was just, what are you doing? Why is this happening? Like just you spiral, and it happened like that.
Did I know you're saying you felt like you had to shelf your grieving time on Alan for Angela. I think a lot of people get wrapped up, and I'm really impressed with the way you responded to it, because a lot of people would just continue to put others' needs first. Like, oh, I got to update this person, got to make this happen. You're trying to people please instead of dealing with like the immediate circle around you that desperately needs it. Like, and I think you did that really well. And I remember communicating with you, and it's like you had your priorities straight. Like you were genuinely had a caring heart for, number one, your wife. Like I know you would jump in front of a bus for people. Like you're the loving guy. So number one, you're worried about her. You're thinking about Angela. You're thinking about all this stuff happening. And that's a lot. There's a lot of emotions going on there at the same time. So, I mean, you kind of stated a little bit earlier, you weren't 100% sure that you'd be able to see Yvette, right? That's like,
Yeah, when I dropped her off, like I knew. I didn't really know. Well, I think I was hopeful going there to the ER. I was hopeful, like maybe because I'm vaccinated, maybe they'll let me stay. But yeah, that was, I don't want to say a pipe dream, but it's kind of wishful thinking. You know what I mean? Like I got there and of course, immediately they were like, no, and I think at that time is when we started hearing about breakthrough cases for people who are fully vaccinated. And so they were like, no, like you've been exposed. And that kind of hurt too, because now I'm like, great, I got to go home and stare at the walls. I can't, I tested, knock on wood, I tested negative 3 times that week. I never got sick. I never had any symptoms. Angela had it. And she was done with it in 2 to 3 days. It was nothing for her. It was like a head cold, and I'm thankful for that, because God, if it had been both of them on top of everything else, I don't know what I would have done. But it was just crazy when I dropped her off. I literally, I sat in my truck, in the ER driveway at Los Robles, and I'm like, I just fell apart, because I'm like, that might be the last time I see my wife. Mm-hmm. It was that bad, and I'm not 23 and I'm not 30, but at 42, I really didn't think about that either. And for those who may or may not know, Yvette is older than me. She's got 11 years on me, and in my mind, even at her age, I just didn't really think, not like that. If it had been a car accident or, something like completely random, random act of violence, I don't know. I could go down a laundry list of things that I know you can, probably get called home for, but I just never had thought about it at this point. I thought, oh, we've got this, we're on this journey, our lives are going well. And, it just hit like a freight train. And it kind of made me have to just pause for a second and go, whoa.
Yeah. How did your prayer life go? So, I mean, we're talking
Sure.
a certain amount of hours in between monumental stuff of the unknown. Like, so you're sitting there not knowing about the status of Yvette. You're sitting there not knowing why, the whole why of what happened with Alan. And it's like truly, a brother to you, your wife. What are you doing? Like, how do you communicate with God? I know you kind of said, why is this going on? And that's that's a natural response. Some people, and I'm sorry, like,
no,
people say all the time, like a whole faith thing is like, oh, how could you question God? It's like, sometimes life really hits you and you're like, hey, what is going on? It's not a knock on your faith. And it pains me when people say that, like, oh, everything bad was going on. And I asked God, like, why is that happening? And someone said that was wrong. It's like, hey, you're grieving, you're going through life. So I don't
that. Well, funny and ironic. The last interview that we did, I talked about that same thing, where I'm like, I said, it's okay to be angry with God. He's God.
Yeah.
Right. If he's the author, finisher of our faith, if he's the Alpha and the Omega, he's the creator that breathes life into every living thing in the universe. I think he can handle it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and I said that, kind of jokingly last time, with a joking tone, but I was serious about it. And I did have that moment where I kind of got angry, and I'm like, I did it. I lashed out, in prayer, and it wasn't my finest prayer hour, but it was real. Mm-hmm. And it was honest. And I felt like I always feel like God knows your heart anyways. So you're not really hiding anything from him. You know what I mean? And that's real talk. Like, I think a lot of people are afraid to express anger with God, or maybe they're afraid to really come to God with a problem or something that they're struggling with, or, you know, whatever it is that's on their heart. But the funnier part of it is that people, I think a huge chunk of people, even people that are believers, you're not hiding anything from him. Like, he knows all. Like, whatever you think you're doing behind closed doors that he doesn't know about, he knows. Yep. Whatever you're thinking about that you don't think anybody else knows about, that might be the case, but he knows. Yep. And so I was just real honest with God, and I was like, dude, like, I'm sure when this is all said and done, I'm going to learn some lessons. I mean, my prayer life dramatically changed. I mean, I'll just be honest. Like, I wasn't actively praying for my spouse or actively praying for my daughter every single day. And that's just real talk. Mm-hmm. Just being transparent. I might take heat or judgment for that. I don't care. But, you know, I just had gotten a little lax, you know, in my prayer life. And I think when things are going well, you know, I just heard a message about that this weekend where, you know, people tend to only, you know, use prayer as a 911, you know, like when there's a fire, and like, you can't do that. And so, like, I've gotten better about that. I pray daily now. I'm hard, steadfast. So my prayer life dramatically changed through this. And I think that it would have changed even if the outcome had not been what I wanted it to be. You know, if Yvette, God forbid, something had happened and things did take a turn for the worst, I still think that my prayer, I would still be heartbroken and I'd be devastated, but I still think that my prayer life would have dramatically improved still, you know, and it's a discipline. Like, I got to be on it. Like, a couple of days last week, I'm like, oh, I didn't, you know, I fell short today. I didn't do what I was supposed to do in my prayer walk. And, you know, it's definitely not perfect, and I don't think it'll ever be perfect. But it definitely changed. And yeah, I was angry and I lashed out, and then I told God how I felt about it. And, I won't get into the details of that, 'cause that's between me and him, you know, but, I mean, he heard that prayer as much as he heard the other 1,000 that I've done.
Yep.
You know, and I think that was a good reminder that, you know, God is faithful through all things, you know, and and it's funny, we're coming into Thanksgiving, and I just heard a great message last week about, you know, the power of thanks. And it's funny because, you know, God just tells us to be thankful in all things. He doesn't say be thankful for those things. Yeah. He just says be thankful no matter what you're going through. And that's something that really stuck out in a message from my pastor last week, that I hadn't really thought about it that way. You know, not at that level. You know, I think we all, oh, just be thankful, you know, like when I'm going through everything I went through that week, I wasn't thankful. I'll be honest. Like, that was like the least thing that was on my mind was thankfulness, because it's just raining junk right now in my life, and I'm heartbroken, and I'm heartbroken on, you know, multiple fronts. And so, but I just took a breath, and I'm like, okay, Yvette's still alive. She's still breathing. She's not on a respirator. It came close, but it, you know, she's not on a respirator. And I would just take like every little piece of news I could get and just be thankful for that. You know, like the first couple of days, day 3, day 4, we were in the clear. Day 1 and 2, they were like, yeah, we don't know. Her nurse was like, we don't know if she's going to make it. You know, even night 3, they were like, tonight's the night. Either she's going to break down and she's going to tire out, or her body is going to do what it needs to do, and it's going to fight. And she fought, you know, and, yeah, I mean, I was thankful just for every little step along the way. I just kept saying, thank you, God. Okay, we're a step closer. We're not where we want to be, but I'll be thankful right now in this moment for what you're doing. And, yeah, my prayer life dramatically changed, and it's definitely not just a 911. I'm guilty of that.
Yep.
For sure. And I
Yep.
think most people are.
Yep.
I talked to lots of, you're a pastor, and I'm not calling anybody out or even judging anybody, because again, I was in that boat for a long time. Yep. Where it's just like, okay, when I need something, God, yeah, I need this job, or God, I need this opportunity, or God, like, my marriage isn't where it should be, or, whatever it is, like it's almost like we get into that behavioral pattern of only coming to him when we need something. This taught me, Aaron, you got to be, you got to be talking to God daily.
Yeah.
Daily. I can't stress that enough. I learned that, and I learned obedience through a lot of this, because me, I'm not a sit around and wait it out type of guy. Like I think like the worst Bible verse for me is, be still.
Yeah.
No. And I'm not a be still guy. And so, and that's just by nature of who I am and the way I was created, and the way I'm wired. But yeah, I had to learn some obedience and just be still, and just take a time out and go, okay.
I like what you're saying too, and in this process, because it seemed like the world was kind of crumbling around you at times. Everything's getting okay, boom, here's on all my shoulders, everything's happening. But
pretty much,
you said something key, and I want everyone else to realize that, is that you started to then look for little victories that kind of flip some of the narrative. So Yvette getting better, or hitting a milestone different days, kind of being thankful for that moment moving forward. So then it seems like you're kind of putting a support system back up, like the building's not going to collapse. Like, okay, wait, she's okay, another day. Okay, another day. You're still kind of having to push this side up with your own hand, the whole friend situation, but at least one side is kind of getting stabilized. And I don't know, God does this amazing thing where we're able to see it when the dust settles. And I'm going to kind of take a whole turn around things and kind of tell you what I see experiencing this as a friend next to you is, like, first off, I got a chance to attend a worship service with you and sit next to your wife, who went through this life. I'm going to call it a life altering experience. Like, I don't know what it's like being in the situation she was in. And yet when I saw her worshiping, it was just an excitement, an exuberance, a happiness to God, that she wasn't, I mean, I didn't see any reservation. Like, how could you do this, God? I'm so pissed that I went through this. It was hey, I'm here, I'm praising you. And that was exciting to see.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, the loss of Alan kind of in my life sparked this whole idea of, hey, we talked about it often. We got to make sure everyone's doing okay. Like we have a circle that's around us. Some people, one person in your circle, some has two or three, some it goes beyond that, but it's like, we got to be checking up on each other. And it started to take this whole life not for granted. Like I appreciated, we would check up on each other. It made me try to check up on other people. And it's like, in the midst of this earth shattering darkness that happens, that God's able to then still utilize those things. Like, hey, like you're saying, there's a community that needs each other, like support each other, love each other like you're supposed to be loving each other, not just letting people skate by in life and forget about them. And maybe every once in a while you'll throw a life jacket to them, but it's like,
yeah,
check on people and appreciate what you have around us. And
it's funny that you said that, because that was going to be kind of like my next segue was, I am incredibly thankful. Thankful doesn't really seem like the right word, but that's the word. I'm grateful, and I am incredibly thankful for my church family, and interesting, and not even interesting enough. I mean, it's not a shock or a surprise, but like, people, obviously I make, I'm super public about where we attend, and I love my Roar family. They were amazing in ways that I just did not expect, in a good way. I had people calling me, praying for us, checking in on me, offering to bring us dinner, and they're an amazing family. I was blown away, quite honestly. And I was even more blown away by my, old Journey fam. Tara and Jeremy reached out, J-Rod, reached out, you reached out, Brian reached out. I was just blown away, because I think often, we do think like, yeah, we throw a bone or we'll check in on somebody here or there. But like, I had a group of just steadfast believers that were like relentless in checking on me and were worried about me. And rightfully so. There were a couple, I think there were some moments, Monday night where it was heavy. And I was kind of like, I don't want to say I was done, but I was tired. I'll just say that, and I don't, I'm super resilient. I always have at least thought of myself as resilient. But yeah, Monday night, I was tired, and I was just thankful that, people checked in, because it was important. It made a huge difference in me getting out of bed the next day, to be honest. I don't think I thought about doing anything dumb or stupid, but I was just tired. I just felt like I'm throwing in the towel. I got no more, to give today. And community is huge, but a big thank you to my Roar fam, Journey fam, even I want to go without saying this, my class of 97 in high school fam, like they were, they called and checked in and reached out. And, some of these people I hadn't talked to since our last high school reunion. And then there's other people I keep in touch with often, but there was just an outpouring of people who were like, you don't maybe necessarily think about you or really care about what's going on in your world, but something like this happened, and it was like, oh, this person, wow, I haven't heard from this. It was just refreshing. It definitely, in our world today, with everything that goes on, and as divided as we are, even as believers, it was refreshing to see that people put all of that aside and said, hey, bro, are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you going to be okay? What can I do? What do you need? And, it kind of renewed my hope in humanity, Dustin, a little bit, if I'm being honest, because there's sometimes where I think we all get, in this day and age, especially in the climate, politically or spiritually, religiously that we're in, there's so many walls of separation. There's so many degrees of, well, I if you don't like what I like, then we can't be friends. Or if you don't believe the way I believe, or if you don't pray the way that I pray, or if you don't worship the way that I worship, or if you don't like the same worship style I like, there's all these, or you didn't vote for the person I voted for. We could get into all that, but there's all these degrees of separation. And what I saw in that moment was God showing me, Aaron, man, don't worry about all this other stuff. I created you to love and to be loved. And I had not realized how far I had drifted from that ideal, if that makes sense. I really did not realize until that moment. And even going through it, even when I still didn't know if Yvette was going to be okay, God, I just heard that from him say, you were created to be loved, and you were created to love. That is what he asks us to do. Yep. And the Bible's clear on that, right? Love God with all your heart and love people the way you would want to be loved. Yeah. And, if you're doing those two commandments, the rest all fall in line. Yeah. God's not, and so it was very refreshing to see that. And I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful that I walked out of, I'm grateful that I came through it. I'm grateful that Yvette came home. She's healthy, by the way, for those who might be wondering. No long-term side effects, knock on wood, nothing, nothing long-term or damaging. There's some hiccups here and there, but overall, like, she's, back to her normal feisty Latina self. and even then, that was hard. That was a hard readjustment, having her here, because I'm like, are you fragile? Are you going to break? Are you going to pass out on me? Like, I just want you to be okay, And so there was definitely a readjustment period in just, taking her. I remember, we put her in the car, I think the second day home, and just took her to the beach, and she just wanted to see the sunset, and it's all these little things that we take for granted. Yeah. And so, like, I think God really used it to just really maybe grow some thankfulness in me, and to reignite the importance of, one thing I think that came out of all of this, whether it was how people treated me when I was going through this or the Allen situation, is what we say to people, how we treat people, how we behave towards people. It really matters. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I really knew that until I went through these situations simultaneously. But it was underlined in bold, italicized, highlighted. It matters. Yeah. Those things matter. And if there's anything, that anybody takes away from this conversation, I hope it's that like how you treat other people, what you say about other people, how you love them, how you behave towards them, how you either show them care or don't show them care is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And I didn't think that it was a big, I knew it was a big deal, but I didn't know that it was as a big a deal as I do now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I hope people take that away. That's absolutely key. I think you made three points today that I want everyone to kind of to realize and walk with the rest of their time. Is number one, I love that point that you're supposed to love people, care about people, truly, genuinely pour into people. And by doing that, the second point makes a community. Like, you need to have people around you. The third point that I love, and I'm going to stress this to people over and over, is you had an open time with God. You laid it all out on the table. And a lot of times people, and I'm guilty of this, will just take it all in and not say anything. And it's like, I don't want to burden people with knowing what's going on in my life. Other people have stuff going on.
I think when you texted me, you were like, dude, Yvette's in the hospital? Yeah. I was like, yeah. What are you telling me? And I was like, I don't know, man. I'm dealing with this. And you were like, okay. Like, you were like, are you okay? Like, but yeah, I mean, there came a point too, like, a day into it, a day two into it, I'm like, people were freaking out because I hadn't said anything. And Aaron, why haven't you said anything? Exactly that. I'm like, I just don't want to burden everybody. I don't want to freak everybody out. I don't want people worried, because I think, especially as men, and I'll put that out there for men. And I'm not saying it's not true for women. So ladies, if you're watching, please know that, like, I am equal opportunity for men and women all across the board. I'm married to a very spicy Latina, and she will tell you that I am very equal when it comes to men and women. And, but I think as men, we tend to want to just hold on to it. Yep. And we got it. Yep. We got it. We got it. And I think we're trained from a very young age, depending on how you were brought up, but even society wise, that we're masculine and that we're fixers and that we're doers and that we're providers and that we're fierce protectors. And so we tend to do that with our feelings.
Mhm.
And boys, I'm here to tell you that that's not healthy. It's okay to cry it out. It's okay to call your brother and tell him I'm going through some whatever, some junk. I'll just keep it on radio, edit, but you're going through some junk.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be vulnerable. And I do agree that you have to, I say that you have to find a circle that's safe for you to do that in.
Yeah.
But absolutely be okay to do it, and as boys, we all have our circles.
Yeah.
I know, we have our group chat, and and I've got Rick and a couple other people that I Dave, that I can call in a heartbeat and just go, dude, my life is falling apart right now and I don't know what to do. And you got to have that circle, but boys, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because I lost it multiple times that week. I got to a point where I think my tear ducts were on empty. I just didn't have any, I was sitting here crying, but not physically crying, because there was just no more tears for me to cry, and it felt good because I'm not a crier. That's just not who I am. I tend to be I got it, and it's okay to do that. But it's definitely, it's been an interesting couple of months, Dustin. I'll say that.
Well, I thank you for being open to share. And I said, we briefly talked about it. It's if someone's going through this, I hope someone can take something from it to help in their situation. If there's any way we can help you, I'll speak on Aaron's behalf. Let us know. Reach out to us, and we will gladly talk to you. I'll send you Aaron's way, and he can tell you some of the ways that he got through it. But I think it's important to know you're not alone.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Yeah.
That's key.
Yeah. And the other thing I would say too, not to get into any details on this, but you are not alone. Mm-hmm. If you're watching this and you feel that way, there's help. There's people that care about you. There's people who love you. There's people who, if you would give them this much detail about how much you're struggling, they would jump in the fire with you. Mm-hmm. And, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, what I would encourage someone who's watching this to do is, call the National Suicide Hotline. You can reach that at 800-273-8255. If you're at that point, get help or call somebody. Call that number. Suicide is a horrible thing. It leaves so many unanswered questions and just so many people's lives that are impacted by suicide on a regular basis. And I think we've gotten better as a society about talking about it. I actually think as a church, we've gotten better at talking about mental illness and depression and suicide, but we're not where we need to be by any means. And so I would just encourage you, if you're at that point where you just feel like your life is just not just falling apart and you're just done and you're ready to throw in the towel, call somebody, call your pastor, call a friend, call a coworker, let somebody know what's going on in your life. And and again, that number is 800-273-8255. And that's, if it's outside my scope or outside, I always say that too. If you bring something to me and it's outside my scope, I'll tell you this is outside my scope. But I got some pastors and I got friends that I could call where this is not outside their wheelhouse. So don't ever feel like you're bringing it to someone who doesn't, I would say that to maybe somebody who's watching tonight, where someone does come to you and you don't know what to do. Reach out to somebody else. If you're not equipped, that's okay. Because some of this stuff is heavy. It is serious. You don't have to do the heavy lifting. You just have to get the ball rolling. Pick up the phone, call a pastor, refer them to the National Suicide Hotline. Maybe they'll get help through that, but do something. Don't sit quietly. Don't just let it veer off. And don't not validate it either. Don't invalidate what someone's going through. That's huge.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. That is absolutely key. It's nothing worse than you saying something and they're like, oh, You'll get through it. Don't worry about it. It's like, oh, cool. Thanks. That's
Yeah.
just what I wanted to hear. That's
Yeah. Oh, bro, sorry to hear that. I'll check in next month or something. See you at Christmas.
man. But no, this is, and I mean, I wanted to talk about this before the holidays too, because I know holidays, like we personally love the holidays. We talk about it all the time.
Yep.
But there's people that this may be some of the darkest times of their life, this holiday season. So that's why this is here. This is what's going on. So thanks for being in that circle. Thanks for listening to me, and thank you for opening up your life to me and to everyone that's listening. But I think this was needed, and I just pray that it reaches someone that needs to hear it in this timely way.
I appreciate you having me. And if I come back as a 3-time guest, just putting it out there,
Yeah.
gotta have like a better topic, like something happier.
I know we gotta do something happy. We might even bring in, like, if you're on for the 3rd time, then we should have like 3 people on. So Brian, get ready. This is
Brian. Add Brian.
yes.
Yeah, Brian needs to get in the mix, dude.
I know.
I'm ready.
We can call it like something Christmassy. We're gonna do a Christmas one, so get ready.
Well, we're gonna do our cook-off thing too, aren't we? Are we gonna do our?
We have all these grand ideas. This is
never do. Yeah. The problem is finding balance.
That's right.
Get them done. Anyways, bro. Anyways, hey, happy Thanksgiving to you and your fam.
Yeah, you too.
And, hope you guys have a great turkey day. And yeah, love you guys.
Yeah, love you too, man. Thank you. And thanks everyone for watching. Like I said, that number will be in the chat. We will make that happen. But we'll see you next time around the table.